Okay, we're starting Unit 6 now, and we're specifically on 6.01 or 6.1, and this is point of view, and who tells the story. This is important. No matter what you read or watch, you want to know who is telling the story. So if you are reading a book, it's helpful to know who's telling the story. If you are reading a newspaper, it's helpful to know who the author is because it gives you their point of view and perspective. And once you know who's telling the story, then you can judge how trustworthy they are. So for example, somebody might tell you that it's going to snow later on this week, but you know that they're just kind of blowing smoke because you have your phone and you're a more reliable source as opposed to them just sharing what their heart desires and trying to manifest snow out of their own will. Anyway, not the best example, but let's look at some other ones. So a narrator, that is the person who tells the story. And a narrator can be a character in the story, or it can be someone who watches the story happen and tells it to the reader or the viewer. So if you have seen like Deadpool or Series of Unfortunate Events, they have a narrator who is, they have a narrator. So the narrator in a Series of Unfortunate Events is not necessarily in the story. They're just telling the story. But in Deadpool, your narrator is the main character. I don't necessarily support you watching that, but if you've seen it, then you might be able to connect to it. Okay. So first person point of view. That is when one of the characters is telling the story. If you play video games, this is like the first person shooter that when you play video games, you can decide what perspective you want to play it in. Do you want to see yourself, or do you just want to see like the barrel of your gun or the knife that you're carrying or whatever it is? How do you know if something is in first person point of view? Because it uses these I, me, myself, we, us. So that's the double check is the narrator a character in the story, and does the narrator use first person pronouns? That's when they talk about themselves. So I walked into the room. I sat down in the chair. Here's some examples from The Color Purple and Great Gatsby. These are sometimes your narrator is the main character. Sometimes it's a friend or a sidekick of the main character. So the reader knows what the character is thinking and feeling. That's a key of knowing whether or not what point of view it is. Okay. But your narrator might be unreliable. Like your narrator might be a child and might not understand everything that's going on in the story, or they might be a dog who doesn't understand everything that's going on. Third person. So third person point of view, we've got two different, I'm just going to like X this little guy because I don't. No. That guy. No, that guy. It's getting in the way. Okay. So third person, it is either omniscient or limited. So you see how this eyeball covers both of them. Omniscient means sees everything. So an omniscient person would be someone who sees everything and knows everything. Some of you might feel like your parents are omniscient and that they see and they know everything that you do. Some of you might feel they're more like a limited, that they only know what's going inside the heart and mind of one person. So omniscient means there are multiple characters and you can see their thoughts and you can feel their feelings. But if it's limited, you are only getting the feelings and the thoughts of one person. You can still see other people, but you're only getting that in-depth knowledge from one person. So that's the big difference between third person and first person. So other stories are written in third person point of view. The narrator is outside of the action and the events of the story, and they use third person pronouns, he, she, they. So third person omniscient, the story is told by the narrator who knows everything. They know the thoughts and the feelings of multiple characters. I do enjoy a Series of Unfortunate Events because our narrator is able to tell us the thoughts and feelings of each of these characters and their perspectives. Even the baby, you get to hear what the baby says, as told like through the characters. So you get to hear the thought processes. Fairy tales, that's another one where you hear everybody's story. The Rumpelstiltskin story, you hear like the thoughts of Rumpelstiltskin, and you hear the thoughts and feelings of the woman that he steals the baby from. Third person point of view is limited, can also be limited. So that's a narrator outside the action of the story and tells the story with that he, she, they, but you only get a good glimpse into the mind of one person. So the narrator knows how this one character thinks and feels. The narrator doesn't know what the other people are thinking. It only shows their actions. So the example that I have is from The Hunger Games. It is told from Katniss Everdeen's perspective. Third person limited is the most common form of third person. If you read something and you don't know, you're like, well, I know it's third person because they use these he, she, theys. I know that the narrator isn't a character in the story. So if you have to make a 50-50 guess, go with limited. It's a little bit more common. So what we're going to do is we're going to determine the point of view in a passage that we're reading. And so we have to figure out who is telling the story, how much does this person know, and does the narrator know the thoughts and feelings of all of the characters or just one? So I want to take just a quick little stretch break. I'm talking maybe like 2 minutes, and then we're going to get into a little bit deeper lesson where I will walk you through how to determine point of view with an excerpt from Call of the Wild. So,